a fidget stick.
Hi, everyone. Welcome and welcome back to the Practical Mystics podcast. And this is where we have modern spiritual conversations about the mess, the magic, and everything in between. I'm Shannon Havill.
And I'm Kimberly Crawford. I'm really excited for you to join us on episode 8.
Episode 8. I just
Yeah.
got a text from, I don't know, somebody who pays attention to how many podcasts people are doing. And they're like, congratulations, you did episode 7. Most people don't make it that far.
Oh, that's amazing.
And
I know. I'm proud of us. The
me too.
consistency is the key, and we're just trucking right along.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, we're just starting hot and messy today. We've been trying to get a little bit more organized since our first episode. And I think we had a pretty good track record, but we both got the message just start recording right away. Cause normally we have an hour of catching up and talking and figure out what we're going to talk about. And Kimberly says, hey, I got the message from my team to just start recording the whole thing. And I was like, shit, I got the same message. So here we are, hot and
Yeah,
messy.
right? Hot and messy. And people cannot say that we are not authentic and that we're not following directions because we are absolutely on top of that.
Yep. Yep.
For sure. And we haven't talked to each other in a hot minute, like literally since the last time we recorded, I think.
I think so. Yeah. Which is
Yeah.
unusual.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Just some texts here and there. And then we've just been kind of really head down in our lives and
Yeah.
in it.
I don't know about you because we're just catching up. We didn't even do our catch up. And uh, I don't know, life kicked my ass this past week a little bit. But I have to say, my center felt real peaceful, even though the outside felt real chaotic.
Oh,
And, I mean, there was some mental stuff that got processed, but pretty much I was just like tuning in, going like, "Hey, I'm not losing my shit. I'm like, I'm not doom spinning, or
good.
spiraling or whatever."
Yeah.
So how did your week go?
Honestly, there were moments of the same. I think where you had sent me a text to kind of check in and also offering space to hold if I needed anything. And I'm like, I am psychically like going, sending you all the things. Uh, and it was like a whole bunch of spinning plates in the air. And yet at the same time, I felt very zen. Like everything always works out for me, and this looks like a hot mess, and it's totally on fire, but everything like, this is just burning off the dross so I can see, like, the gem that's inside of all the mess, and, holding on to that signal and really being that steady, um, vibration really helped, and I had a friend of mine on the trip that I was at, and when I was knocked off, I think because things were so like, "All right, this is what we're doing. We're following directions. Okay, this pivoting." Like, she was able to adopt where I faltered and was able to kick us back on track, when I was too tired, and I was like, "I don't wanna do this. I wanna stop and just forget it," and she's like, "Nope. Here this is our goal. Here's where we're going." And it was great.
That is so great, and that is the beauty of partnership, teamwork, whether it's personal relationship, your partner in life, or a friend or, a friend
Yeah.
and podcast partner, like whoever that person is, it's really wonderful to have somebody that can pivot with you. And my husband and I both, we've been together like 35 years, and it
Mm.
seems the universe has been kind that most times one or the other of us is pretty balanced to offset any spinning going on in the other.
Okay.
And it sounds like your friend was that for you, and that's wonderful.
Well, remember how I had this image in my mind where you had mentioned the tuning forks, right? And how
Yeah.
picking sound, and it's like the longer you can hold your ring, then you're tuning the other person. And then if you falter, then that person's already in tune. So you're able to get yourself back into harmony faster
Yeah.
because you are, and it's for me, what I learned is community. while I was gone. So one of the hot messes was my beautiful brother-in-law got us goats to help us with the weeding. We have something called a goat head, and they are really nasty weeds when they dry, and it literally has like these really long spikes, and it'll go through a tennis shoe. It'll go through a muck boot if they're not thick enough. So they're serious, and like they'll puncture paws of the pets. So even when they were soft, they were getting into the paw pads of the dogs and horses. They're just not great. And so my brother-in-law heard that goats will eat the goat head weed when they're babies and young and have this they're so deceiving. There's this cutest, teeniest little pink flower. And you look at it, you go, oh, how sweet. This is so beautiful. And then it's just like, "Rah," and it's got this total crazy thorns. So we got these goats and we were trying to train them to stay on the property because they came from the property down the road. And they had been letting themselves out for walks to the point where so the goat that was featured on our last show, right? So Nosy and Nelly, which everybody saw, they're our new resident goats. Apparently, there's a hole in the fence, or if you don't put the gate up straight flush, they can wiggle their butts through. And one of the neighbors had said, "Hey, I think I see your goats down the road." And my brother-in-law was like, I'm looking on the cameras and they're right there. Or maybe I saw him a few hours ago. But he hopped in his truck, went down the road to our place, and sure enough, the goats had run back home and gotten back on the porch in time. It's almost like they knew, like their psychic little horns were like, "Oh no, we're about to get busted," like kids. And they ran back home. And they're like, "Nothing to see here, just doing goat stuff." Like,
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
and they were like down the street like half an hour ago. What? So they've been doing a lot of shenanigans like that. And when I'd come with my friends, she has 2 more dogs, and in the last episode, when everybody saw the goats, they had made great friends with my dog, and so they're like, "Ooh, 2 more, this is so fascinating," right? And they would get on their hind legs and look in the windows to see what was going on in the house. Um, and when we were outside, they were just really shadowing the dogs. Very, very curious animals. Oh my gosh. And then finally we went into town and my friend had to shoo them back because they were trying to follow us like down the road. So she tied the gate real quick and then we took off. Like, so we almost had to go, look over there, and then like go jump in the car. And, like, we're city mice, like, we don't know what the heck we're doing. We're out here in the country trying to deal with goats and horses.
Wrangle goats.
Yeah, it was crazy. But then when we came home, they weren't there. They were gone. And we thought, "Oh, that's weird. Maybe they're down by the creek or a part of the property we can't see." And then it got to be nighttime, and it just seemed so unusual because 'cause they're so curious, and they usually come in to the back porch and, show themselves and nothing. And meanwhile, like the weather has been erratic and it's like we had beautiful sun, then it was raining, then it was snowing, then it was hailing, then it was sunny again. All within like a matter each day was which was a different season. You got to see all of it.
That's wild.
Um, but then they didn't come home. And so the next day we got up and I started calling my neighbors, my new neighbors, and asked, "Have you been?" That's how we heard all about the shenanigans. "Have you seen our goats?" It's like, "Oh, well, I saw some a couple days ago up on the hill, and I saw." It's like every time you talk to somebody, they've seen it in a different part of the neighborhood. But they had been coming back home. So what I learned on this trip was like those goats helped build relationships, and
Mm.
without that, what I thought was a chaotic problem, it was really building relationships and building trust and being vulnerable and realizing how powerful vulnerability is. And like going up to a house you've never really been to before. And not that we were in distress, but we were concerned. And it was like, here, take my side by side, take my binoculars. And I was like, I c what? I can't take your side by side, like, some of those are like 30,000, it's like a golf cart on steroids, right? And it's got all the cool toys and stuff, and he goes and instead of loo my neighbor looked at me and goes, "You can't take my side by side? Like, why? What's wrong?" Like, "Is there something wrong with your foot or not?" Like, so for him, it's like a legitimate, like, logistical there's must be a physical reason why you can't get in it and operate it versus
Right.
me going like, "This is your property, and I don't know you enough for you to trust me with your property." And he's like, "Why are you not trustworthy?" Like,
Right.
it's a
Now
whole
you've
different.
raised the question of not being
Right.
trustworthy in his mind, right?
Totally, and he's just like, what's this girl's problem?" So I was just like, "Wow, there are places in our world where they're like, of course, you need the thing. I don't need the thing right now, and I
Yeah.
have it, but you do. So why wouldn't you use it to help yourself, which ends up helping all of us? And then when I need something, I know I can go to you and knock on Kimberly's door, and you're going to help me with my thing." And it was like that over and over again. Everybody I talked to, they may not know where the goats are, but they know, how to identify poisonous plants that are on our properties to get off. And yeah, it was just every single stop. And listening to directions as I drove by, there was a place and I was like, this feels awkward, but the gate's open and I'm compelled and my people are saying, go into this driveway and I drive past it, but then they're like that whole, "Hey, hey, hey," and it's like, "Ah, okay," backing up, going in, and sure enough, it was like this beautiful introduction to another neighbor who had more
Oh,
information. It was just like pouring a little more into our cup every
that's
single
so
time.
great.
It was
Wow.
beautiful.
So you have
Yeah.
networking goats.
I
They
do.
like to be on camera. They're networkers. It sounds like you have magical goats.
Magic goats. Nice. Yeah, there's something. Well, hopefully they're not magical from beyond the veil because they have not come home still.
Oh.
Yeah, and we found some bones, but my husband's still holding out hope. He's like, "Those could be deer bones." So it also did teach us the respect for the land in a sense of apparently there are bear out there. There are wolves and packs of coyote and is it cougar or mountain lion? I don't know. But
Mm.
dawn and dusk, make sure you have your bear spray or I don't know, big stick.
Wow. Wow. What a great experience with just allowing your goats and your intuition to lead you in exploring your wonderful neighbors and getting to experience how generous people are.
Yes.
I know right now there's a lot of stuff out in the public domain that's, sharing divisiveness and against each other and stuff like that. And so I love hearing stories of people helping one another, and the authentic heart of humanity really is generous and wanting to
Yeah.
help your neighbor.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
absolutely. And it's
awesome.
happening. I have to believe that it's happening everywhere, that this is not just a unique neighborhood, you know?
Yeah.
And finding the synchronicity in goats and then having that spread has now created an idea of like a community cookout and now getting more people that maybe don't have missing goat opportunities to connect on that same group
Right.
or road to get everybody together. And yeah, I invite people to look for the opportunities where you can show up, you know?
Yeah, and also the something that popped into my mind is to look inward to see where might we be blocking um, that kind of opportunity to meet neighbors or receive something of generosity,
Yeah.
like borrow my expensive piece of equipment in or whatever small or large offering that somebody might have. And I don't know if this is um maybe a oh, we're in California, and I've heard that people on the East Coast also, we tend to have less of a neighborly type of warmth that you find maybe in the South or the Midwest.
Mhm.
Um, my eldest niece moved to Alabama,
Mm,
and she went to college there, and now she's, met a wonderful man and creating her family there. But when
okay.
she first moved there, she was like, Southern hospitality is a real thing. And where you were in Idaho.
Yes.
So I think that, regardless of where you live, I think it's important to see like where might we be uh, blocking
Yeah,
things from coming into our life.
right.
Yeah.
Yes. Or pinching it so it's trying to come through a very tiny little,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Or our
no.
suspicion of people, like, what, do they have an ulterior motive? Sometimes just our life experience, rightfully so, has created those kinds of wariness of others. And just because the past has created that experience, and that's a program that we're still running, maybe,
Right.
we have the opportunity to acknowledge it, notice it, acknowledge it, and then choose something different
I love that.
if we want to have a different experience. And
I
that's,
100%. You said that so well. And I would like to also offer, because I could hear the concern already from some of our listeners of like, well, judgment keeps me safe, and discernment, is something that we've talked about as a necessity. And like you were saying, there's past programming, but what's coming online now for us is our what people are calling spidey sense. Your telepathic and psychic tools are coming online. So if you have that hit, and if it's in here, it's in your stomach, sometimes it's itchy brain for different people. Listen to that and be curious and go, where's this coming from? Is this coming from the ego of, oh, in the past, people take advantage of me, so people are assholes, and I have that as a mantra? Or is this particular person giving, like, I could
right.
feel that they are not in tune with my flow, my frequency, and I need to watch out for that.
Yeah.
And I really invite people to be curious about that and play with that, because that's going to have more truth when you're listening to your heart space and your gut when it comes to feedback versus
Yeah.
past.
Because we might also get a legit, like, do not drive down that driveway. And so you do turn around, and
And
that's
there were
the,
some of those. It was like, oh no.
yeah. And so that's the benefit of, being centered in our heart and listening to the guidance that we might be hearing or feeling. We were talking last week, I think, about like gut. Oh, I had a gut feeling, and that's intuition. Gut
Yeah.
feelings are intuition.
Yeah.
um so yeah, just paying attention to all the signs and signals,
Yeah.
but also to our inner dialogue of what's going on.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I also met a different neighbor, and she has 2 daughters who are going to be, um, starting a podcast, the mother and the daughter will be, and it's about mothers and daughters and the connections that they have, and one of the daughters was oh my gosh, they're both, I would say, highly intuitive children,
Mm.
and have a lot of magical superpowers, which I don't know, but I can definitely feel. And the younger one, she's so observant. I could tell that she's just reading everything about you and she's taking everything in. And it was so fascinating to see another set of kids, reminded me of my sisters and I, who had a mother that protected their gifts and or abilities, right? And allowed them space to really develop those multisensory abilities. It was such a beautiful thing to see. And it was also a little I could imagine it being a little unnerving for some adults to be able to have a kid so confident looking you right in the eyes and just watching everything you do. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I was
And
that kid. I I didn't really,
yeah,
like, jive with all my cousins and siblings. I was the oldest for 1, and
sure.
2, it just didn't wasn't into the same things, and so I would go, like, sit and listen to the adult conversations, and
Me too.
sometimes I'd just sneak in, my mom wouldn't even see me for a while.
Uh-huh.
She'd be like, When did you show up? This isn't a conversation for you," and I was like, "But it's so much more interesting than what those jokers out
Hi.
there are doing."
Right, right. I don't wanna talk about that stuff, but this is interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow, that's fine. Did they let you stay or did they kick you out?
Nah, they usually kicked me out. So,
Same.
you know, belonging, right? Like, oh, I don't fit in with the adults because I'm a little person and I'm not,
Sure.
jiving with these other kids out here. And
Right.
uh, so anyway, but yeah, that's
Wow.
pretty funny to um, I think now there are more kids like we were when we were younger.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's really great the work you do in helping parents with how to be and parent children like that because
Yeah.
I think unintentionally those types of things can happen where a kid just feels like, oh, I don't belong anywhere.
Right.
And, or like, I don't have anybody to talk to about these weird experiences I'm having.
Yeah.
Um, and so for the parents out there who might be um, thinking they have a weird kid, maybe you do, and you should get curious, find out what kind of special features they have.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
my word for we all have special
Yeah.
features, some are pluses, some don't feel like pluses, um, and we all have
Oh,
them. So it's like, know
yeah.
your special features, know the special features of the people in your life, and have some compassion and latitude for all of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And unfortunately, they don't often come with a cliff notes on how to operation manual for those special features, right? So having
Yeah.
grace for people as they figure it out.
Yeah. I think there's more information now out there than maybe when our parents were raising
Oh,
us,
for sure.
and,
Absolutely. Yeah.
podcasts and classes and books, and I mean,
Right.
the resources are abundant now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I would say that we are very fortunate now more than ever. You even have a friend who teaches child Reiki, right?
Yeah, one of our we have a couple that we're friends with, and they're both Reiki masters,
Hmm.
and she just completed a several-year process of creating a Reiki for Kids course.
Mm,
Um,
so beautiful.
and so that's being taught now,
Yeah.
and
We'll have to put
that's
that.
with yeah, Inner Compass Reiki, and they have a website. Let me put that in the cliff notes. She'd be fun to have as a guest.
For sure.
Yeah. The 2
Yeah.
of you would have a great, conversation of working with kids and stuff like
Yeah,
that, so that would be
absolutely. No, that would
fun.
be a fun conversation to have for sure, especially with all these little beings out there that are so awake and it can be overwhelming. because they absolutely see the world in a different way. I mean, everybody has their own sliver of their own perspective, but these kids see colors different. The sounds are different. The way they
Wow.
walk through life feels so different. And
Mm,
it can also be very distressing because if we're kind of immune or desensitized, and then they're hypersensitive, and um, it can cause a lot of distress, but then they can also figure out solutions in such a fast way, in a more dynamic way, because they're taking in, all the information in a much different way. So
yeah.
yeah, it's just fascinating to watch them walk through this world and how dynamic the shift is going to be. Like, I know it looks like a hot mess, and I know that we've talked about that, I think, in episode 5, but I am so excited for all of the unfolding. It's like we're clearing off, burning off all of the stuff that no longer serves us. And then out are popping these gems. It's like we're getting rid of the goat weeds, the goat
Yeah.
heads.
That's right.
We're not being fooled by the fancy cute little flowers anymore, and then not noticing the thorns underneath. And we're like, we've done the excavation, and now it's time, like, what are we gonna plant? Like, oh,
Yeah.
good stuff.
Yeah. I just listened to Lee Harris's energy update for
Oh,
April.
okay.
And I always enjoy those because it's just kind of
Eh,
like a perspective on what might be coming. And I appreciate that he always, excuse me, prefaces like this may or may not apply to you because, hold on one second.
got a
Speaking of
little tick.
nature, I got a frog in my throat. Um, not everything applies to everyone, when we're talking about energetics that are happening in the universe and um, energies that are going to be, from astrology or planets moving and stuff like that. Everybody's impacted differently. And he always says, like, if this doesn't feel aligned for you, then don't like create it, right?
Yeah.
Um, but one of the energy update items was uh um oh gosh, I just lost it. Like you said burn off, like burn off of the old for the collective.
Mhm,
So collectively we're dealing with like lots of stuff coming up to be addressed, purging.
mhm.
And some of us are here to help with that for humanity and Mother Earth. Some of us are here just to do our own work. And I think one of the things that I got to practice this past week, that's related to that is when other people in our lives are going through drama and they're having to reconcile with things of the past and make decisions for the future.
Mm,
And they may or may not look like they're making decisions that we think are in their best and highest good. Uh, and or their decisions may be creating some drama for the family, which is
right.
has been the case with my husband and I this past couple weeks.
Right.
And so there's just this really interesting opportunity to love people without being attached, and
Mm,
also finding compassion and not feeling like we have to fix it for them.
mm, mhm.
And that's easier said than done.
Yes.
Um, but it's also wonderful how quickly things are happening because we had a couple of different family type things going on simultaneously. And through us practicing just love, compassion, and neutrality, supporting where we could, and just, allowing people to have their journey
Yeah,
and sending out love and hoping for the best instead of, putting our worry for them out into the field. We
exactly.
just like kept in our heart and kept hoping for the best. And magically, the best turned out in both cases.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And
Good. Great.
and it's happening faster.
Yes. I was gonna bring that up. I'm glad you did.
Yeah, and so things are speeding up. And one of the things that came to my attention last week from my team was like, we get to choose if we're going to grip onto something and try to control it,
Yeah.
or if we're going to like release the grip
Mhm.
and trust and get in our hearts and listen to our guidance
Mm.
and set our intention for the outcome we want without trying to control it, whether it's the direction or the pace or speed at which things happen. And when my husband and I did this past week specifically,
Okay.
one, we were able to like we went to the beach and had a great time on Friday. He had the day off and we were like, let's go to the beach and have some fun. And we didn't allow what was going on with our loved ones to like weigh us down.
Wow.
And it
That's
was really beautiful.
Now, did you guys meet up and, like, literally talk and say, "Hey, look, this is happening, and let's go ahead and carve out some time for ourselves," or, "This is how we're gonna deal with this and stay neutral?" Like, was it a team, like, meeting, or did you just kind of fall into that practice? So for people who want to try to emulate or kind of not recreate, but create for themselves, h what do
Yeah.
you Yeah,
Well, we definitely, I mean, some of these things have been ongoing um, challenges, and then they just all kind of came to a head at the same time.
okay.
Um, and we very much did have a conversation of like, look, let's not, what do you get? Project fears of the
Yeah,
worst case scenario because that's not going to serve us or the family members. Excuse me. And let's stay in our hearts and so it was very much a conversation kind of throughout this journey. We've been having these conversations, but as it really peaked up, it was like, you know, let's help each other stay in our hearts and stay grounded. And and then yeah, we both just were just like, let's just go have some fun because life has kind of felt heavy and this past week and and it's okay when people in your life are struggling to go have fun. In fact, I think it's more important to go have fun during those times.
so say that again, so people need to hear that.
It's okay when people in your life are struggling for you to go have fun
Yes.
or do something that brings you joy.
Yep.
I think we can get stuck in like, oh, that person or the world. I mean, like there's a bunch of fucked up stuff happening in the world right now. And so whether it's in your microcosm or the macrocosm of life, we're not doing anyone favors by bringing ourselves down into the suck with them. And so by us sending compassion, love, whatever practice we can do to support. But then, like, don't own that. Don't bring that inside. That was one of the things that Lee Harris pointed to a couple months ago when there was like a lot of chaos. He was like, if you're not feeling chaos, don't bring that in,
Right.
right? Like, let it stay out there. And this is the same with our family this
Right.
week.
There's
Like,
no FOMO.
yeah, the chaos was out there, and we're like, keep it out there.
Yes.
And but by having fun, one, we get to expel all the stress that we have been experiencing or maybe embodying. Because, don't get me wrong, it wasn't like we were all, oh, too bad for you. And we're just, no, there was stress happening. There was emotional eating going on. And we just named it like, tonight's a burger and beer night and we're just going to go out because I'm not fucking cooking and so we're eating it and I was like, let's just name what we're doing. We're eating our emotions and drinking our emotions right now, and that's okay to do once in a while.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. I love
So
it.
there was that. There was a beach trip, like we
Yeah.
did all the self care things along with our
Okay.
meditation and some of the other stuff. But,
Okay.
uh, just like don't bring the chaos in. We don't have to suffer because others are suffering. And yeah, there's a lot of shit going on, and self care right now is huge on the agenda.
Right. Well, and also I see that it comes in all different kind of ways, and I think the word self-care has also been hijacked. I was watching, the Madison, or is it called Madison? The new ta
Oh, we
Yes.
watched that show
You
too.
did too?
Talk about neighborly. That's when
Woo!
you were talking about the neighbors, I was thinking of that show.
Yeah, well, and I'm not sure if you suggested it or another friend, and like, you gotta put this on." Like, you're literally kinda starting to you're living that without obviously missing your husband, thank goodness. Um But it was a commercial that popped on, and there's like, "It's part of my self-care routine, using all sensitive soap," or something like that, and I was like, "Laundry detergent does not like, what?" So I was
That
like,
is
"I'm not."
not self care. That is a chore. So let's name things
Thank
correctly.
you. And I was like, "Don't be trying to hustle your soap. Get it into my
Some
house through
bullshit right
self-care."
there.
I call it shenanigans. Where's my shenanigans cards? Shenanigans, yeah.
Uh,
Like, that's ridiculous. Give me a break, you know? Self-care is, yeah, not in soap and washing your clothes.
so let's name some things that might be self care. Just from our perspective, obviously, everyone's got to choose what feels like self care to
Sure,
them. Yeah.
sure. Yeah, well,
And
for
it's
me,
not laundry detergent. We know that.
no. No, nor is really doing laundry, I mean, that is a necessity. I'm just gonna take
Unless
that
you're,
the whole category off the table for me. For others, that may
yeah,
be, like, zen, and
maybe
they
one
might
of your special features is that laundry brings you joy and peace, in which case, come on over to my house.
I'm next. Come over to my house next.
But for most people, that does not fall under self care.
Not at
Yeah.
all, no, but self-care for me usually is a bath, a nice warm bath with Epsom salts and my, essential oils, and then partnering with the water, sending appreciation and structuring the water for healing, and also just to see if I can get messages from the water, and um, being able to use that element has been super, super nourishing. So I love that. And then doing things like, I don't know, following directions is self-care because I love efficiency.
Yeah.
And I find that it's the shortest way to get to the good stuff. And I mean, me, I have that a phrase, follow the fun. And if I'm stuck on something or I don't think it's working out and there's something fun, yeah, we can call it a distraction, but oftentimes I follow the fun and I end up getting into either a better frame of mind to be able to go find a solution, or I am introduced to a way of being to where that issue doesn't bother me in the same way that it did. So I'm like elevating my frequency and I'm seeing things from like a whole new plateau.
Yeah. Those are great suggestions.
Yeah. What about you? What did,
Uh, Bath is definitely self care for me. We are blessed to live in the redwoods, and I don't know if anybody can see right out my window, but we have a cluster of 5 ancient redwoods right out on our deck. And
Mm,
so, sitting by the fire pit on our back patio, listening, we also have a creek. And,
yeah.
but when we didn't live here, we'd sit out in nature and listen to the birds or, um, like, if it's nighttime, sitting out and looking at the stars, just anything that can, like, help me get out of my head and, and start feeling, like, more relaxed in my system. Like, I could feel my nervous system starting to, like, settle or, um, calm down. We were just at family, my husband's cousin's house yesterday, and, commenting on how beautiful their yard looks. And his wife just, it's like her joy. She loves being out in the garden. And I saw my neighbors, like I was pulling weeds and she was doing her thing. And she's like, I love this. And I thought, I'm going to adopt that perception because I'm not relating to my yard work as loving it. But um, yeah, so, but
Yeah.
water definitely is because we have electrical systems.
Yeah.
And unlike like electrical wire and water that don't necessarily go well together. Our electrical system and water go well together, and so that does help kind of,
Yeah.
or even a shower. Like if you don't have a bath or you don't like taking baths, like just a shower. Or when we were at the ocean, we just wouldn't put our feet in the water because the Pacific
Mm,
Ocean is not like super warm and like, oh, let's go in the ocean, and
right.
it's friggin' cold.
It is ice cold.
So
Yes.
we just put our feet in the water and walked on the sand and soaked
Yes.
up in the sun, and it's amazing how quickly these things help. And so trip to the beach for me is self-care. And
Yes.
I now only live 30 minutes away from the beach, which
Mm,
is something I like wanted to manifest forever.
right.
I wanted
And
to
now you
live
got
near
it,
the
girl.
beach and in the mountains near the trees. And that's exactly where I live now. And it's so funny because I think we lived here for like 6 months before I realized, "Oh my gosh, I finally got that thing I've been manifesting forever. I wanted to live in this environment." And I was like,
Yes.
"Oh, we're here."
Yes. Isn't that fun? Oh my gosh. When you finally realized, you're like, oh, I've gotten to that place. I've finally gotten
Yeah,
to the place.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
But,
wonderful.
for some people, baking or cooking or, working on a project,
Yeah. Right.
self-care
Yeah,
can look
absolutely. Things that are
different.
creative. For me, it can be painting. And I'm not
Mm.
talking about like painting a picture of art, like literally painting a wall. And
Mm.
thenness of just up and down, and then being able to immediately see a transformation from
Yeah,
one color to the next, and then looking back and going, "Oh my goodness, there has been a shift," and that brings me a lot of peace. And then, like you had said earlier, walking without shoes, being barefoot
mm,
on ground or on the sand in the water, there's something
yeah,
so healing and allows me to feel like I'm resetting and like I'm releasing things.
yeah,
And the earth can like it's a symbiotic, right? You're giving the earth what it needs and then the discharging of that energy, and then it's pushing back into you, right? That new vitality. So just taking time to honor all of the different processes that happen without us even realizing it.
yeah,
You know, the breathing, the drinking, access to food, access to sunlight, access to shelter, and getting into a state of gratitude by really looking around in whatever moment. And that moment can still have chaos
yeah,
or, being upset that something isn't working out the way I think it should, but trusting, and I know we talked about this in the last episode, trusting that things are unfolding and um, being grateful for what I do have in this exact minute. And it allows me to drop down and be more vulnerable because I find that I'm wearing my shoulders as earrings, and
yeah. That's a sign that there might be some stress on board.
that I'm dysregulated. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, hold on. And then I go on a gratitude rant, and that seems to really, really help. And it's simple, and it doesn't cost any money. I don't have to buy special tools or
Looks like your video
ooly
froze.
ooly,
So I'm just
whatever.
going to add here. I'm so glad you brought that up because I was thinking the exact same thing of in some of my darkest moments, which uh, could just be waking up with some doom spiraling in my head randomly. Like I didn't know where that came from, but um, or I shared in a past episode when I went through a dark night of the soul. In those moments where you're in it, sometimes just being grateful for like if you have a roof over your head, if you have clean water to drink or to take a shower or bath in, if you have good food, like these are things that when you have them, um, if you're somebody who's living in an abundant situation and these aren't problems for you, absolutely having gratitude for those things because not everyone has those.
Yeah.
I mean, I was feeling crappy about whatever was going on in life for a moment. And what popped into my head were all of the people in these countries who have either been bombed or some natural disaster swept through and wiped out their neighborhood, their city, their whole island.
Right.
They don't have electricity for warmth or clean water or a roof over their head. And so I was like, I absolutely am grateful for these things that I have. And I don't take for granted that I have them. And then the other thing that this kind of just popped out of my mouth the other day, I was talking to somebody over lunch and we were talking about how, like, if something crappy happens in your day, you have the choice whether you hang on to that and let it ruin the rest of your day, or you can find your way to let go of it quickly
Yeah.
and go on with, like, yeah, that crappy thing happened and it didn't mean I had a crappy day.
Right.
And what I said was, and we have that choice in the moment too. Just because I had a crappy moment doesn't mean I have to let that ruin the next moment
Right.
or my day or my
Yeah.
week. And
Yes.
so I was getting prompted to talk about that in today's episode of like
Mhm.
there are crappy things happening and we may be experiencing them, we may be witnessing them, and for us to really be mindful of like, are we internalizing those and making something that's not ours ours? If it is ours and we're in the middle of experiencing it, are we choosing to process it in the moment and let it go and then have a beautiful next moment or rest of the day? Or are we grasping onto it and spinning that story in our head over and over? Which I don't know about you, but for me, when I do that, I literally can feel my emotions amplifying. Like I
Yeah.
get more pissed
Yeah.
or angry. Um, and so, can we let go of that instead of grasping onto it? And
Hmm.
so, what do you? And
Yeah. No, I love all of that. Our It's funny as you were talking, I saw like two different clouds, and one was like the storm cloud. It's kind of like that analogy of like which wolf do you feed,
yeah,
right? I, you know, the focus on the horrible things is going to fine tune your brain and all of your body systems to point out all the wrongdoings in your life because that's what you're practicing taking in.
mm, yep,
And you're not all, and then when you're taking that in, you're uploading that up and you're feeding, more of what you don't want. Really having that accountability. And I invite people to really track how much news you're watching. 'Cause I have some loved ones that have it on all day long, and then
yeah,
they're yelling at the TV by lunch and if in a tither by dinner because they have been hearing the loop all day. And then you literally creating suffering is being in a space where you feel it should be different, but then having no power or opportunity to make it different. So you're stuck in that space. So then but the wanting it to be different is the divide, and you push yourself out of your own system, and you're creating this friction, this tension. And we have to allow ourselves to, like you're saying, see and be the witness if we are the witness in that moment and say, yes, I honor the fact that this is what it is. Right? And now I get a choice to stay here and continue to be in the story, or I can send love, like you had talked about in a previous episode, sitting there, and instead of turning it off and avoiding or going into the sand, you send everybody love because it can't come into your field, right? And I take a time, like a certain time of day in the morning, and I send love to all of the hot spots, is what I call them,
Oh, that's a great term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then I'm just trying to send all that cooling, peaceful energy to the hot spots. And then that practice allows me, when there's hot spots in my life,
Mm,
to go, okay, I've practiced that.
yeah.
And then I'm able to cool myself down, the inner hot spots or the hot spots in my family,
Yeah.
and try not to be in a reactive state, but conscious response.
That's a really good point you brought up, which is practicing these things when we're, in a peaceful place, or maybe we're just kind of neutral. I think that's a great thing to talk about in a moment too. Neutral,
Yeah.
um, because then we have that entrainment in our system. Like our system knows what to do with heart focused breathing when we can start doing that. When we've practiced driving or while we're in the shower or doing dishes, the more we can practice deep breathing, whatever, type of practice you might be practicing right now,
Right.
doing those things in those moments where you're feeling fine. And so that when you do have a hot spot, you can just literally think, like, I'm going to activate whatever it is.
Hmm.
And your system then has that entrainment and it knows what to do with it so that you don't have to, in those moments of non clarity, we don't have to go through all the steps to, get us there. Cause it's like, yeah, my system knows what to do with it now.
That's right. That's right. And it's all about we've talked about it before, practice and consistency. And that consistency creates its fine tuning and it creates clarity the more you go and the more efficient you get. Like that training of your systems, exactly what you're saying. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And, for people that are just getting started, pay attention to where you're getting triggered. So, like if you're in traffic and you're yelling at the cars, like that might be a great time to practice some heart focused breathing and see how your system might respond. Or if you work with some jugheads that, always press your buttons, it's like maybe in that moment you can just like, instead of focusing on all the fuckery, you could just be like, I'm just gonna go inside and practice my thing and
Yeah.
see how it might, transform this moment. And over time you might find like you just look over and you're like, oh, there they go again with that thing they do. And look at me. I'm not triggered by it anymore.
Yeah. Well, and it's wonderful when you go through life and you find I guess the revelation, like you were saying about, oh my gosh, I live in the house with the woods and the ocean. And, like I've been here for a while, but it took me a minute to actually realize I've achieved this thing. The more we practice grounding, going outside, gratitude rants, really developing the tools and the awareness and the letting people be, like you had said, like, oh, like owning where you are and allowing people their own experience. And you'll get into a moment that you remember being in the year before, maybe months before, and you'll go, wow, huh, like that would have spun me out before.
Yeah.
And now I feel a sense of peace. I'm not necessarily excited or happy or like blah, 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 but I'm not like totally raging,
Right.
or taking, as my kids would say, the rage bait that's being thrown out.
Yeah. Because there's a
Right?
lot of that out there, right?
Yep.
And we get
Absolutely.
to choose whether we bite that bait or we let it float on by.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
That'd be the strongest signal for ourselves. And you're going to have a more joyous life. Uh, when you can keep yourself steady and vulnerable and open to receiving, but not get knocked off of that frequency, then you're also being a inspiration to others, like we talked about before when my friend basically helped me get back on track because I had been so steady
Mm,
before. And then we're in harmony. So you're harmonizing your community through
mhm.
practicing yourself to be the strongest signal for yourself.
Yeah, and family, and yeah, and, I mean, we're human, right? So we're not going for perfection, because that's just totally unrealistic. But
Totally.
if, when we do get knocked off center, we can bounce back and recover faster
Absolutely.
and, um or catch ourselves, like, halfway down the hole instead of getting to the bottom of the hole, and you're like, "Oh, now I gotta crawl all the way out."
Right.
Um, and there was something else that I just totally
Well, this is a
lost, but
great segue for neutrality. So why don't you go
yes.
ahead and talk to everyone about how that's so effective?
So neutral, I'll share the concept of neutral.
Okay.
And it came up in my life in a couple of different arenas. One was through my teacher that I follow for Kundalini Yoga. And then the other is through the community of Heart Math that I think I've shared about before. And so neutral is like you're not happy, you're not sad, you're not angry, you're just like neutral. I don't know how, like it's it's a place where you have a moment to take a breath and decide, what do I want to do next? Or it gives you a place of landing. So if you're deep in it and you're angry or upset or something, it's difficult to go from that to like happy. That's just not realistic. And for us, or to expect someone else to bounce out of that, right? If you're dealing with somebody who's really angry, expecting them to just turn it around and be happy, like that's just not really a realistic leap. And so if you imagine like a scale, whether it's like sound or color or whatever, there's like the extremes. Let's just take colors. So on one end extreme, there's black. On the other end of the extreme, there's white. And in the middle is gray. In fact, I was just prompted last week to look up this song from a long time ago by this group called Live, and it's called The Beauty of Gray.
Huh.
And I listened to it, and it's like, I don't even know how old this song is, maybe a couple decades.
Really? I've
But
never heard of it. The beauty of
oh, The Beauty of Gray.
huh.
It really does kind of, anyway, look it up. It's on, wherever you get your music, you'll find it.
Okay.
It's Live is the group, and The Beauty of Gray is the name of the song. And if we can figure it out, if I remember to put the link in the show notes. But anyway, so back to neutral. Gray is like right in the middle. And so if you take emotions, if you're angry, if you can just get to neutral where you're like, okay, I'm not angry anymore. I don't know what I'm feeling, but I'm just going to take a minute
Yeah.
and check in. It's a place to land when you're on the extremes.
Yeah. I love it.
And and if you can be like a tuning fork for neutral even, like if you're in a moment of chaos or something like that, and maybe the best thing is not jumping into the chaos and try to fix it, but maybe just try to get into your center and be neutral.
Mhm.
And neutrality allows for us to hear each other because we're not stuck in our own position trying to
Right.
get someone else to see it our way. We're just neutral, like you do you, I do me, you think what you think, I think what I think. We could be in the neutrality of it. We might learn something, we might hear something, we
Mhm.
might be able to tune into our own internal feelings and understand what's going on with us because we're not in the heat of an extreme emotion. And I wish I looked up the like more scientific explanations of it, but It's
Anything that your people want to or your team wants to add?
neutrality is a place of rest and space.
Space. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's your understanding of neutral or experience?
Um, Neutrality is welcoming steadiness, and it's allowing expansion into either receiving or emitting. So you are at this place where you're able to uh, allow one or the other to happen, but it's usually getting back into a place where you're one of that is closed. One of those settings is closed, right? And neutrality is releasing the outcome, or the investment of the outcome, and getting into the present moment, because you can't be neutral and be cast into the future or stuck in a past programming. Neutrality is absolutely 100% present energy. And
Mm,
when you are in a place of neutrality and then you're anchoring into steadiness, the key for me is not to go to what's happy, but it's like, where is the next best choice for satisfaction? Where would there be satisfaction in that next best choice? And for the greater good of myself and everybody else. And so that way I'm not sacrificing somebody else's steadiness for mine.
yeah.
And there becomes this harmony, that is possible within myself first. It may not be anywhere else.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
I can get, at least if I am back into that steady space, then I will be a beacon, right? And everybody has an opportunity, if they choose to take it, to tap in to
Yeah.
that, and because then I'll be able to like open that signal up, right? I won't be
Yeah.
closed down in like righteousness. And yeah, that's what it means for me.
It's cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did do a search to see what the internet had to say about, from a spiritual perspective, what is
Mhm.
neutrality. And it says in spiritual context, neutrality typically refers to a state of conscious detachment where one observes experiences without the ego's usual labels of good or bad.
Right.
And the thing I like about this other one, divine neutrality, this state is not about being passive or indifferent. Rather, it's about acceptance,
Mhm.
detached observation, being a curious observer of your own thoughts and emotions without being swept away by them.
Mhm.
So, those are a couple of cool insights that came up. Um, But
That's
I
great.
like that with, it's not about being passive or indifferent because I think sometimes people think neutral is like not giving a shit or
Mm.
like I'm out, not caring. That's not neutral.
You mean like ambivalent? Like okay.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
word. And I love this term, curious observer.
Yeah. I like that too. I think
Yeah.
that's great. Mm,
Mm. So neutral, it's one of those things that we can practice. And uh, let's see here. We can practice, it's like uh, getting to neutral. The way I see it, if we're dealing with emotions, is like if you're in the lower tier, if you're not neutral and you're on the lower frequency tier, feeling some really intense, crappy feelings, like what's the next level up? So if I'm angry, maybe even getting to neutral is not a realistic next step. It might just be like I'm just mildly upset right now. That's an uptick from being in it and super angry, right? And
for
then
sure.
from mildly upset, then maybe you can get to neutral. And
Well, and for some people, it's they're on the floor with despair. So then getting angry is a ratchet up. Like that means that you're activating passion and have some kind of movement of energy. Then fantastic. Then be fucking mad and let
yeah,
that take you to the next plane up. Yeah.
yeah, that's a really great point. Um, because I think a lot of times we relate to anger as like bad.
Right.
And it might just be self-care for you, actually. Like, getting
Sure.
angry could be a version of self-care if you've been
100%.
stuffing a lot of anger and
Mm-hmm.
emotions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In
Yeah.
fact, my husband just found this place, online. It's in an area near where my parents live, and it's called I Smash, and it's a place where you can go and they have, all the safety equipment and stuff like that.
Sure.
But they have, like, online, the pictures showed like this big wooden stump and a sledgehammer. So what I made up was you put something breakable on the wooden stump and you hit it.
Nice.
Like, one person had a bat in their hand, another person had a sledgehammer. And,
Wow. Okay.
so, like, if you're dealing with anger
Yeah.
and you need to get it out so you can even like think about neutral,
Yeah.
go smash something in a
Yep.
responsible way. Like, you know, and the idea that I liked about that is like, oh, I don't have to clean that shit up after I make a mess.
It's like, see ya. Absolutely. Well, and oh gosh, we've curated our lives to be so comfortable that you've taken out the options to get this energy that's stuck out, right? And
Yeah,
adults don't often play softball or baseball as a league because if you weren't ready to be an Olympian or go pro, then why bother, right? So you could be whacking baseballs at a batting cage, or you can go cut some wood,
great idea.
and do that kind of stuff too. Or beat the crap out of your couch, like we had, talked about home clearing and how I had one client do that. If you find that you're sitting and basting in sadness, or you watch the news or something sad in a chair that you often go into, then you probably need to beat the shit out of that chair and get all of that frustration out, because every time you sit in it, imagine sitting on a button and and it activates the hologram,
Literal
really.
hot seat.
Yeah, exactly. You've created your own hotspots. You know?
That's
And
really
it's
good.
like because we've practiced. There's so many, like, I've done home clearings, and the woman was saying, "In the morning, every time I go get coffee, like, we end up in a fight." And I was like, "Okay, literally, I want you both to be in the kitchen and mimic what you do." And as soon as you put them in those spots, and then so she opens the refrigerator and he goes, and, like, the refrigerator will bump into his elbow as he's pulling out the coffee pot because it's the way that they have it arranged. Like, you can't not get into, like, a, "Hey," because then there's hot coffee
Right.
and then even though there's no hot coffee and they're literally acting it out, it's like, "And see, she both went," and then they're about to get into it right there, and it was just like, "Do you guys see that you've practiced this so long?" It's like, "So how could we rearrange this and take this energy out so you're not, like, literally building in a fight every single morning for each other?"
Is such a great example of how, like, we get so stuck in our patterns that we don't
Yep,
even see that the
yep,
pattern itself is triggering the shitty experience with the person in our
totally.
life.
And then they're like, "They don't care about me, they don't love me, and she wants to burn me," and then my whole day sucks because it all starts with, like, starting out with coffee, you know?
Yeah. And just in that small example, what I saw was making shit up,
Yes.
right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
her bump means all these things that it probably
Yeah.
didn't mean. I
No.
mean, maybe it did, but probably not.
No.
So we're making shit up about one situation.
Much?
Two, we don't actually do anything to change the circumstances that continue to create the same shitty experience.
Yes.
Like, that's autopilot, right? When we're operating on autopilot and we
100%.
keep having the same crappy experiences, the same arguments, the same whatever that
Yeah.
is not making you feel awesome,
Yeah.
like pause,
Yeah.
get some clarity, look at the actual circumstances of the situation, like the refrigerator and the coffee being in proximity to each other. If those are the two things you're doing at the same time every single fucking morning, like move the damn
Which is
coffee
easiest to
pot,
move. Right, exactly.
right? Or, like I've heard people fighting over how they squeeze the toothpaste. I'm like, get two tubes of toothpaste.
Easy peasy. Right.
You
Right.
squeeze from the bottom, you squeeze from the middle, and everyone's happy. Right? Like, let's
Right.
come up with some practical solutions to these things. And it's like, why are we continuing to choose the path of like, I don't even know the word, like hostility. That's not exactly the word I was looking
Sure.
for, but
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
uh
To be in resistance with one another or in resistance with the thing. It's like we're doing the dance.
yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so then what are we getting out of it?
Yeah.
So we can ask ourselves that. Is there a little bit of satisfaction in being right
Or a
about
victim.
or victim? Exactly. A victim is great. And then, or are we doing this like your story of like listening to that one radio show because of habit and you saw your parents doing that dance and bickering? So then you think, oh, this is what you do with somebody that you spend your life with,
Yeah, that's
right?
really good point too, is looking at the patterns that we grew up in and the environments, and are we mimicking those things?
Did they have the coffee pot in the same place?
Right. Or does the morning start off with an argument? I mean, that in and of itself could be a
Yeah.
pattern that you grew up with. And so
Yes.
you just recreate that because your nervous
Yep.
system is attuned to that. And
Mhm.
I think if we can like take a detour and talk about that for a minute,
Sure.
um, our nervous systems, uh, one of the signals that I, in retrospect, noticed when my nervous system was really attuned. So our nervous systems can get attuned to chaos or peace and everything in between. And one of the things that I learned through listening to the chief scientist through HeartMath is I I was listening to this about our nervous systems, and it was at a time when I was in a chaotic job, and my system was attuned to chaos, and I was surviving in it, but it was incrementally taking me down.
Sure.
And so when I heard that our nervous system gets attuned to something, and that if we don't take a conscious practice to shift it, that uh, it's like our set point, I think might have been the word that was used.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so you can, do small practices of meditation once in a while, and your system's going to get back to chaos
Sure.
because that's its comfort zone. Even though it's totally not comfortable, that's
Sure.
the comfort zone. That's the set
Yeah.
point. And so when I heard that, I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I have to make a conscious effort to retune the set point of my nervous system. Otherwise, I'm going to just keep attracting chaos because that's where I'm set to.
Right.
And so fortunately, they also offered tools on how to reset the nervous system, which really was heart focused breathing. And that's when I started that practice all the time. Like everywhere, anytime I had an
Mm.
opportunity, anytime it popped into my mind, I did it.
Good.
And there are a lot of practices out there, like work with a therapist, you work with a healer, do a search, go to the free heart math experience online. Um, Find something that can help you understand and retune your nervous system.
Absolutely.
Um, and so that is, it's hard to get to neutral in life if you are tuned to chaos.
Yeah, you have to I like to have my clients think of their body as a like having a dashboard,
Mm,
right? And it's like, what are your settings? And you have these presets. And you have, I think we talked about this before. There's the station that says everything is awesome, like that whole Lego song, everything is awesome, right? And then you have, the everything sucks, people are assholes, and why does this happen to me song, so it's like what is the preset that you have your station on most of the time?
yeah,
And it's like, okay, so but you feel the best when everything is awesome is playing. So how do you get then like when you find yourself there by accident, can you become aware of the everything is awesome station is on in my body? What am I doing?
yeah.
What have I eaten? Who's around me? Where am I? And
What
what are
music am I listening to?
what, exactly what music am I listening to or what am I not listening to? And what part of this can I recreate to reactivate the everything is awesome preset, right? You can, like you had said, Shannon, start your breathing and then focus on the everything is awesome preset while you're doing your breathing. Or like I have the sprays for my clients who use their olfactory senses to get into that quick, hack of being able to get back into that. But the more you train yourself, the faster you can get back there and you're not hijacked, you're not a victim, and then you're breaking those programming cycles. But it's literally choice. And we don't realize that we're making those choices because we're on that automation,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, and it is, some of the signals that I notice if my system's getting out of balance is, like, I'm reactive. Like, I don't have any pause between something that might have triggered me and my response. It's just, like, knee-jerk response. That's a signal that I'm out of balance. If I'm yelling at traffic, in the or other cars, doesn't even
Yeah.
have to be traffic, just somebody doing something shitty on the road,
Yeah, yeah.
and I go into my, like, you know?
Yeah.
Um, uh, there's so it's just, like, tuning in, and actually, the thing that I really wanna point out is that when your system is so attuned to chaos, it doesn't feel like chaos sometimes. It just feels like normal.
Yeah.
But if you're having, challenges in life, that's something to really tune into.
Yeah.
And, actually, one of the things that HeartMath does have is they've got an app and a device that measures your coherence because
Mm,
sometimes we don't know. Like, you can think it in your mind, but it's not a mind thing.
yeah.
You could be thinking happy thoughts and
Right.
have this coherence device flashing red, and you're just like, but I have a happy thought in my head. And then you
Right.
get to realize the thoughts in your head don't necessarily regulate your system.
Right.
And so by using this device to measure your coherence, your stress response, there's a lot of different ways you can say that.
Mhm.
Um, it gives you like feedback of where you are. So then you can tune into your body and go, oh, so I'm flashing red. What does my body feel like? What's going on in my mind?
Yeah.
Um, and then through doing some practices over time, you can then say like, "Oh, wow, okay, my numbers are getting better." And then you can tune
Mhm.
into like, what does that feel like in my body? What does the inner dialogue sound like in my head? Um, doing visualization is a great way to help regulate, but getting some tools for feedback
Yeah.
is really valuable because without some sort of external feedback, it can be very difficult to really understand what's going on if we are uh, if our baseline is set to like chaos.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. And then having a partner who has been in the military, who's gone to war, and then, you can have something on the radio or on TV and you're walking by and all of a sudden you're triggered and you're having a PTSD moment. And there's a part of people like him who are set to be very purposeful
Mm.
and very, very active in a way of like, okay, what do I need to do to, you know, be a part of the solution in this moment, I guess you'd say. So the part of the training is I'm necessary. So if I get rid of this set point or this hot spot within me, am I still necessary? Am I giving up a piece of who I am if I neutralize this and break down this program?
Yeah.
So it can go really deep into identity. And so we ask ourselves, what are we getting out of this process when this happens? And is there a part that is serving a need? Because oftentimes, it can be simply something that we're used to, or it could be something that has been of service that just no longer is anymore. And then we're ready to shift because it's causing more chaos
Yeah.
to stay on that chaos setting. And it's starting to bleed us of our life force. That's what happens is we leak our life force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we might be missing out on some things in life too,
For sure.
you know?
Or you're literally on a different level if you look at life, like you had said, like the colors that you had mentioned, I think, in the last
Mhm.
episode. And if you are on red, then you're gonna miss out what's on orange, because you're in that level and you're definitely not gonna be hanging out with what's happening out there in green.
Right.
And so it's like you gotta be able to, if you choose, if green feels better for you and this is where you want to be, well then what are you practicing that will get you to green more consistently,
Yeah.
you know?
And for those who didn't hear that episode, we were talking about uh, using the rainbow as a way to visualize frequency. And, if your frequency is having you travel on the yellow band, then certain life experiences that match that frequency are happening there. Um, and by shifting our frequency, which is basically doing a lot of the things we've been talking about, not just in this episode, but in the podcast, is empowering us to change our frequency. And then when we get to a different level of frequency, it comes with different life experiences. And, these aren't necessarily like good and bad. If we take the good and bad out of life experiences, they're just the universe is a matching system. It's a mirroring system. And so, um, it, this is really a time of, okay, so my team just said, talk about this.
Okay.
It's, are we taking responsibility or are we blaming others
Uh-huh.
in our personal life, in the big picture of life. Now, there's a lot of things that are out of our control when it comes to the way governments operate and decisions that are being made, but there are choices we can make that can make a difference there. In our personal life, um, we have greater ability to choose things to make change. But we first have to take ownership that I'm responsible for my life experience.
Yes.
And some of the things that can create chaos in our lives is not owning responsibility for the choices we make or don't make and the consequences that those have. And so it's really a deep dive and a journey of being honest with ourselves of like, how much am I owning responsibility for my life? Or how much am I blaming external circumstances or other people for what's happening?
Yeah. 100%.
Because we don't have control. over the most of the things out there. We only have control over ourself.
Mhm.
And the longer you're on this journey of awakening and the more experiences you have, you realize that the greatest control I have is over my internal ecosystem
Right.
that is impacting my frequency, that is attracting the things that I'm experiencing in life.
Mm.
And uh and for those of you who are control freaks, it's like I could put myself in that category. Um, it's like it's the greatest control that you have is this
Accountability.
this whole
Yeah.
thing, and
Mm.
accountability, responsibility, and honesty with ourselves, because we can really be tricksters and kind of trick ourselves into thinking like we don't have control, or trick ourselves into thinking, uh, oh, this isn't mine to deal with. Or I don't know. The mind is a tricky trickster. So,
Yeah. Well, I have a tool that I use, and I have a triangle, and I have a little printout, and it says awareness, accountability, action. And it's like a repeat. You just have this triangle. So whenever I find myself um, either over explaining or making excuses,
mm,
I stop and go, okay, hold on. That means I'm trying to pass the buck somewhere. And like for why I didn't do this or why this didn't get done or even for myself, whatever. And then I have to practice awareness first that that's happening, or else I'm never going to be able to take accountability for it.
yeah,
So once I hear the pattern, then I'm like, okay, I'm aware of that happening. Where am I? What's happening? And then through that awareness, it's like, okay, now where am I accountable? Where do I have a choice? And I'm taking like it's like, okay, then I'm not only aware, I'm accepting what is. So then I can make the choice to make a different take a different option, take a different road, and then immediately take action on it. And then after I take the action, I go back to awareness. How did that okay, so did that change anything? Am I still in the same spot, you know? And that helps me kind of get out of that loop is I guess by creating a different one of like strategically taking a different kind of step that gets me out of that program, you know?
yeah. That's really a powerful shift to make in our life. And it also changes how other people show up in our lives. So,
Mm,
one of the things early on in my journey of self development, so before I like had my spiritual awakening, if you will,
mhm,
my husband and I were very much into self development.
sure.
And one of the concepts was like by changing our response or how we're being can change how other people show up in our life. And when I
Yeah.
first heard that, I was like, what? What do you mean? Like, I didn't get it. Um, but in practicing it, it actually
Mhm.
does work. And so one of the examples is like, uh, if you've got somebody in your life who does something or says something that triggers you, and your response is usually the same,
Mm,
like getting blamed for something. Say you have somebody in your life that blames you for something, and
yep,
your response is always defensive, like, I didn't did it.
sure, yep,
Or somebody does something to irritate you and they're pressing your buttons and you think they're doing it on purpose. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But it's when we change our response to it that it can change the other person's behavior. Because either one, you're not doing the thing that takes that argument or situation to the next level,
yeah.
like I'll just say, like, my husband and I, we're both fire signs. He's a Leo. I'm an Aries. We've got a lot of fire in this house. We have a lot of control freaking in the house, and we've been together a long time, so things are way better than they used to be.
Sure.
But we would get into it over like how to stack wood. I mean, it could be something so
Really?
mundane and stupid, right? Like
Oh,
he
fine.
says something that's trying to be helpful. And
Sure.
I'm like, don't you think I know how to stack wood? I've been doing this since I was 5. And, and it's like the stupidest
Oh,
thing, right? And so instead of me getting triggered like I
yeah.
had in the past and
Uh-huh.
throwing my attitude and like, I
Sure.
know how to do this or whatever the thing
Mhm.
was, in my mind, I'm like, okay, Shannon, you're totally irritated at the moment, but that's okay. Just don't say anything. Like, we could just end this right here because he's trying to help. He's coming from a good place.
Yeah.
Even though I know how to stack wood, I can just let it go. And we don't have to do the round and round that happens after my
Yes.
snarky response that
Yes.
has happened in the past.
Yes. Mhm.
And so there's that,
That's
like we get to decide if we're gonna press the button and go.
right.
Are we tangling? Or are we just gonna like, am I gonna just be like, I don't like that experience.
Yeah. I'm gonna let it pass.
I'm
Like
gonna
a
let it
cloud.
pass.
Curious
Gonna
observer.
either like even if I knew he was doing something to be shitty,
Mhm.
which most of the time he wasn't doing it from that position, but anybody in your life, even if you know they're doing something to be shitty, they're
Yeah.
intentionally trying to press your buttons. Like, don't give them the satisfaction.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
how we take control of a situation is we like go, oh, wow, look at me getting triggered over that thing. I'm going to choose something different.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you brought up um, choices and control in a way that gives people opportunity to do something else. And when we talk about control freaks or wanting to feel a certain way, I don't know about you, but there's some people in our lives that choose alcohol or choose substances that shift their mindset because they don't know how to do it another way. And it's funny because I find that some people in my life who are like hyper into control and that makes them feel really good and safe will pick that, which and causes them to be out of control. Like you have no control. And you're also opening up your body system to be a host for something else or to tap into different parts of yourself that are stuck in different places that want to start their programming. So you really are just relinquishing more opportunity to make choices for yourself to determine a different outcome. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And the more that we are just aware, like you were saying about like I'm having burgers and beer for me, and it's like ice cream and chips, and it's like if it was ice cream, wine, and chips, it's like okay, well, why am I grabbing that glass of wine? I ended up choosing to take alcohol out of my life, not because it was running me, but at one point it was. I
Mm.
was going through a very stressful situation, very stressful, and it felt like my external family was just blowing up because of different choices that we had made. And man, I tell you, it was like, when can I pop the bottle of Chardonnay? And by the time dinner was finished, it was out. Like I was done with the bottle. And I was like, holy shit, how did I get to this spot? And it was like I couldn't control the things that I wanted and move them into the places that I desperately hoped for them to be in. It was so tethered to the outcome and it was not fucking turning out like that, that I was like, okay, well, I need to numb the feeling because I don't know how to get out of it
Yeah.
you know? And it took finally realizing that I was passing on that trigger and that solution to my kids and
Mm.
seeing my parents break the cycle of not drinking anymore. And not that drinking is bad. Every once in a while, if I wanna go try something, I will. But for the most part, I don't because it's like and then it took me like, "Okay, well, now I wanna go grab a drink." Well, then it gave me the clarity of going, "Oh, I see that popping up. Why is that popping up?" And it gave
Mhm.
me that space to ask what's happening
Yeah.
to make a different choice
Yeah.
or to go for a walk instead. And then if I went for a walk and I still wanted to have that glass of wine, now is it the time for that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just giving myself some space to make a new choice and be in control.
Yeah. I think that's a good point to look at the things that we're using in life to help us feel better. And, sometimes that's a legit choice. And just,
100%.
have the thing free of guilt. But it's like, when I said earlier, let's just acknowledge we're eating and drinking our feelings right now.
The awareness.
Like doing it consciously can be a difference maker.
A huge
Um,
difference.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's not that anything is necessarily bad, but it is like if it's created a dependency or it's keeping us from facing the thing that we're trying to drink away, or my go-to is like TV. Like if life gets a little bit overwhelming, I'm just like, let me go dive into someone else's story for a minute and
Mm,
free me up from whatever's going on in here.
sure. Absolutely.
And but I also know that if there's too much of that, that's an imbalance for me. And now I'm like, okay, something's going on that's having me escape to my couch with my whoopee and the TV remote and like so it's like starting to pay attention to those things and not judging them, but
Mm-mm.
like, hey, is this helping me or is this keeping me from the thing I actually want?
Yep. Absolutely. 100%. And I like to think of it as like, what can I do now today that my future self would be like, thanks, Kim. I appreciate that. Like you set me up for success, and that could be like tomorrow's Kim or the Kimberly of the future in regards to like getting stronger or making that choice not to do something to break a pattern or a habit. And then there's some habits that are just not ready to be broken.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yep, still doing the thing, and that's okay because
Yeah.
it's still serving me right now."
And
So,
baby steps too. So, like, do I never watch TV? No, I like to do that at the end of the night because it just decompress,
yeah.
whatever. Um, I've cutting back alcohol in my life just because, not because I have any judgments around it. It's just like I was just kind of feeling flat the
Yeah.
days after I was drinking. And even this weekend, I had some drinks. We were with family and friends, and this morning I woke up and I was just kind of feeling like flat,
Mm,
and so it wasn't like I wasn't hungover,
sure.
but I didn't feel like any sparkle.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well, totally. I mean, do you find that it numbs your superpowers or your multisensory abilities, or does it do the opposite, or is it neutral, doesn't affect them at all? Like, can you still hear your team?
yeah, I mean, obviously, if I'm having a lot of drinks, probably not, but um yeah, I don't nowadays, I don't drink that much that
Yeah.
it kinda but it can.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing you pointed to was, when we kind of go overboard on anything, any kind of substance, it does open us up. You said to have your energy hijacked. I don't remember your terminology, but that's something for people to pay attention to as well. I think that, when we talk about things that have frequencies, um, for some people, alcohol in their system isn't a big deal. For
Yes.
other people, if you've got alcoholism in your genetics and your lineage, you probably have some things that you should be paying attention to in relationship to that. Um, and But there's like certain types of drugs that have very low frequencies. And if you're participating and putting those in your system, then you're putting that frequency in your body. And then you are attracting, you know, non-physical energies that
That's
you're
their
no longer in charge of your
yeah.
vessel.
Yeah.
And so something might get in.
Yeah.
And now you've got two things to deal with. but uh, but addiction itself has a frequency to it, because we're what's the word? Maybe you know what can I beam you what I'm thinking and see if you have the words for it? Sometimes this is where I get lost in translation of like super
It's
clear here and then can I have a human word for that
uh,
please?
not coming out. So you're talking about addiction. Well, I think addiction is not masking, but it's serving a purpose. And are you talking about the lineage part?
No, it's like when we're kind of handing over our autonomy, I think is
Yeah,
is
the
kind
free
of
will, the sovereignty.
yeah, it's like we are taking ourselves offline where our choice making mechanisms have been diminished. Maybe we're not hearing the messages from our team as clearly.
Hmm.
Maybe we are attracting some things that are like,
Funky and not going to serve you.
yeah.
Not
And
fun.
so again, I think it's really like starting to pay attention, like what is the universe showing you? What's showing up in your life? Are you feeling more autonomous and in control of things? And I use control loosely because that's an illusion. Um, control and but discernment, choices, things like that. Um, and also it's a slippery slope, like if when I am on the couch for a day, and sometimes it's because I didn't do enough self care and I'm expending too much energy
Yeah.
and not restoring my energetic um, constitution. And so I literally have just like run my battery to zero. And now I'm
Mm,
on the couch trying
mhm,
to restore. And that
mhm.
that is a pattern that
Yeah,
I've noticed. And so I've started to intervene in like, don't run your battery to zero.
good.
Listen to your system going like, hey, I'm kind of feeling fatigued. And when my mind goes like, but I could do that one last thing. It's like,
Yeah,
just because you can doesn't mean you should.
exactly.
And so that one last thing, even though I squeaked it out, now I'm like at zero
Yeah,
in my energy.
right.
And it takes me a day or two or whatever to restore. And like, that's not the flow of how I want my life to go.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah. And then like to be able to rebalance health, sovereignty, free will, it's huge. And this whole game at Earth School is set up to where you have to like hand over your free will and then the exchange of being under a control of X, Y, and Z, will happen. But it has to be passed on, whether it's consciously or not. And I don't think people really understand that, especially, like, I mean, and it's a hard game, not a hard game, but a hard conversation to kind of dissect when it's like, "Oh, well, I was in a major car crash or had sexual abuse, and you can't tell me for 1 minute that I chose that." Right? Or something tragic or awful has happened. But there is a frequency that we can be on that will allow more opportunity for those things for us to be a part of those things.
Yeah.
And if we can be aware of being in that state, what can we do to take our power back? And we've talked about so many of them in this episode and shift our thoughts, our actions, right? All of those little choices and big choices into pivoting and getting ourselves back into a state that feels better. Where can you find the fun? Immediately.
Yeah.
Can you find the fun? Where can you find something beautiful and start pulling yourself up from there?
Yep. And depending on how far down the emotional spiral you are, like find the next rung up.
Yep.
And and like you said, that might be anger because
the shit out.
Anger is a feeling, and having a feeling is better than being in the depths of despair where you have no feelings.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's a shitty transition to go from numb and not feeling to feeling, but it's the necessary step
Yeah.
because without going through that difficult, and I am speaking from experience, this isn't just like, pie in the sky talking.
Sure.
You have to go through the shitty feelings before you could access the great feelings.
Yeah.
And I think another slippery thing that we can um trick ourselves with is like the excessive happiness. Like only good vibes. You see those t-shirts, only good vibes, and it was like, yeah, that's totally not realistic. It's a nice intention,
Right.
but like I have a friend who had a relative and they were just like optimistic about everything all the time to the point
Mm,
where they weren't actually dealing with the realities of certain hardships in life.
yeah.
And that's
Spiritual
another
bypassing
imbalance.
101.
Yeah, say more about that.
Yeah, where you are absolutely not in that awareness stage, actually. You are in a delusional space and you have, like, in order to really be in the present moment, you've got to be aware. And then there's this acceptance of what is, not the way you want it to be. And when you're spiritually bypassing, it's usually you're seeing things in the way that you want it to be, or and then totally bypassing the distress or the accountability that you also have in that moment where you could take ownership or at least address what it is,
Yeah.
right? So, oh, my goodness. I forgot to turn off that alarm. Thank you so much, notification. Sorry about that, guys. If you weren't awake, you are now. Do you have any
That's
more to
great.
add on there?
Yeah, I mean, I think spiritual bypassing is definitely something that happens, can happen on the journey of awakening, where you think like, oh, I'm shooting for like everything to be awesome all the time. And that is just, it's not actually what the spiritual journey is about. Um, Spiritual bypassing can be uh, like not feeling the feelings you're actually feeling, and in your mind trying to like spin it into something empowering. And so you've got a disconnect between what your mind, you're trying to like think your way through it with your mind, and then your body, your emotions,
Yeah,
things are not matching up.
right.
And so now you've got like uh chaos in the system because you're not dealing with what's actually going on. And so magical thinking is when we're not embodied, like we're not tuned into our physical body, we're not tuned into our thoughts and feelings and emotions, and we're just trying to like power through with our magical thinking
Yeah, and project. Yeah, exactly. At the expense of your body.
and your
So,
mental well-being.
for sure, 100%. And you create a loop where your body doesn't trust you, and then it feels like it's gotta power you down because you won't listen to it, and so that's how we end up in burnout. And then having to rebuild all of um, the trust and rebuilding uh, new choices. Like, okay, my body's not going to react by like completely setting me on the couch because now it's like it remembers this moment where you completely disregarded all of the system warning signs,
Yeah.
right? And it doesn't trust you to have its best interest at heart, you know?
Yeah. And that's a real thing. I've actually lived through that, and I'm still on a trust journey with my nervous system and my body. I'd like to acknowledge myself for the good work I'm doing and having good boundaries and saying no to things.
Right? Absolutely. I did
Yeah.
the same thing, and then I would have these, like, really big retreats, and my body was like, "Oh, no," and then I'd be like, "Oh, I can't cancel. I've got all of this set up," and they're like, "You're not listening, and you haven't been listening, so how are you gonna listen and take care of or hold space for all these other people?" And I got serious real quick of like, "Okay, I've gotta really, really build a relationship with my body and really understand the signals, and it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to pivot, and you pivot less when you practice and stay consistent about rejuvenation and stopping well before you're at that pass out mark. It's like you want to be in a place that's sustainable. And I think I don't know about it's as women I see it's hard to do because you've been programmed to dish out everybody's, portion first, and then you get whatever's left over. And I think, taking this all the way back to self-care, this conversation, right? It's really understanding not just what your limitations are, but where are you trying to go? And be
Right.
clear about where you're trying to go first and then what are you doing in your day to day? Is it stacked up? And is like your inner GPS, does it have the right coordinates for where you say that you want to go? Because
Yeah.
you're causing distress for yourself if you are not aligning those two. And then if you're giving everybody else pieces of your battery, and then you're wondering why you're never getting there, then you're burning yourself out. And I think I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine on the way home, and it was like, where are we expending our energy? And as a partner or a mother, right, spouse, we think of like, oh, we've got to pour into all these buckets, right? As a coworker, and you're trying to forward, the betterment of other people, and oftentimes it can be at the expense of ourselves. So it's like, how can we pour into our cup first and then share the overflow
Yeah.
with others? And
Yeah.
and so that's just the practice that I've really it's like and even when I'm praying, like for those hot spots out in the world, first when I meditate, I'm activating the grounding and the grace and the compassion and receiving love and peace and joy for myself first because I have to get aligned and I've got to get my signal has to be the strongest for myself first. And then when I feel it coming out and out the top of my head, the overflow is for the everything and
Yeah.
for the everyone. And then I take and I send that overflow out to the different places that I would like it to be received and be impactful. But you can't send the essence, which we don't know not to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I had an experience just recently with, um, I've been dealing with some fatigue. Like at the end of the day, I didn't have any juice left for a lot of things.
Yeah.
And so as as my team does, they were like, pay attention to what you're saying to yourself and others. And I was talking about how fatigued I was. I've been talking to you about my fatigue. So I was
Mhm.
like, oh, wow, just enrolling everybody in my fatigue, including myself. Like, yeah, everybody's on board. Shannon's fatigued. And so it was like, first of all, pay attention to what you're saying and change your dialogue. So I was like, okay. So I stopped talking about being fatigued for one, because that's just reinforcing to my body that this is my experience. And so keep creating that. So I did that. I stopped talking about my fatigue and how tired I was. I stopped thinking about how tired I was.
Mm,
I mean, I would acknowledge like I'm tired because I'm, tuning in to like where's my battery and if
right.
I'm getting too low, self-care. Um, but then the next thing was where am I sourcing my energy from? And I was
Mm,
like, I wasn't even tuned into where I was sourcing my energy. So therefore, whatever was on board was getting used up because I wasn't paying attention. And so I asked my team, I'm like, okay, show me how to change how I'm relating to all of this. And so I closed my eyes and I was shown like, okay, put my roots of light from my feet down into the earth, connect with the earth. She's a regenerative source.
Yep.
Okay, so do that. Connect to the sun. So I just imagine the sun shining down on me, filling up my cup with energy.
Yes.
And then I also tuned into my heart because my heart portal is connected to the the divine source of infinite energy. It
Yes.
was like there's no such thing as no energy because it exists in the field, and so you just aren't tapping into that.
Right.
And so I did that exercise, and I'm starting to do that more. I'm
Mm.
changing my inner story. I'm not
Ye-
talking to a bunch of people about how I'm fatigued.
Yes.
And so last week, it was like middle of the week, I came home and I was like, wow, I actually got a little juice in the tank where normally I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I told my husband, I was like, hey, this is kind of feeling like it's working because I
Oh.
am not out. And he goes, yeah, I noticed that. And so he
Oh.
noticed it
Things
too,
are
that I wasn't walking in the door going
being that
like,
way.
I'm spent, man. Um, so it worked. And the
Mm.
funny thing was, I was also working with a client and we were talking about other people tapping into our energy because not everyone knows that they are, or not hearing their team like I did saying like,
Right.
hey, here's where your sources of energy are,
Right.
your infinite sources of energy. So people, if you're someone who doesn't know that and you're like, oh, that person's real shiny and I love their energy. And you may not consciously be doing it, but you're probably tapping them or someone in your life, drawing their energy.
Right.
That is a limited source of energy.
Right.
And so anyway, I did this exercise where like we took this, if you imagine somebody with like plugged into your heart trying to tap your energy because they don't know that they have their own direct source.
Right.
So they're not doing it to be, malicious or harm you. They just
Mm-hmm.
don't know.
Yeah.
But when we feel that, we can say, oh, instead of like, cut that cord and don't tap my energy, like what we did was we said, oh, let's take this cord and plug it into the universal heart and source of
Mhm.
energy
That's beautiful.
and have their higher self tell them that's their source.
That's gorgeous.
And then we fill in the hole with our
Yeah.
soul energy and love
Yeah.
and then tap back into our own source of energy and
Oh,
fill our cup back up.
yep. Absolutely.
And so
Mm.
sometimes we're on both sides of that because we're getting tapped and we're tapping someone else. And so you've got like this, everybody's tapping limited sources of energy. And so, like, hey, if you are hearing this podcast, tap into the universal source, tap into Mother Earth, tap
Yeah.
into the sun, all of it we
Yeah.
have access to, and see what happens for yourself.
That's a beautiful reminder of the ultimate self-care is our battery sources. And I think that what we're also finding is as things are changing and we feel life speeding up, we are also finding that our energy sources that worked in the past are no longer serving us anymore and they're not fueling us up. And that could be physical food fuel as well as uh not realizing that we've pinched off our energy coming from the earth or coming from the sun or coming from source um, as well. So, thank you for recognizing and sharing your story so other people can experiment with that. We really invite you to do a meditation or use your imagination to imagine pulling that energy up into your body. And you're always connected. You're connected to the earth, you're connected to the sun, you're connected all the time. It's just how pinched off or how open are your vessels.
Yeah.
in order to receive all of that.
Yeah.
So,
And our awareness that
mhm,
those are the sources.
for
Our
sure.
awareness definitely makes a difference of how we're consciously or unconsciously doing things.
Yeah, and what a beautiful world, those are free. You know?
Yeah.
I don't have to go pay for a retreat or pay for somebody to teach me how to do it. It's like we've gotten through so many things today, and they're all free or mostly free, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So everybody can get outside, or most people can get outside and spend some time in the sun physically, as well as using your imagination to connect to the sun, right?
Yeah.
So it is awareness, taking the time, making a conscious effort to do these things for ourselves, and knowing that it's nobody else's responsibility but ours in order to act
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. And if you don't know, you can't think of something, ask your higher self for some help. Give me
Yeah.
some ideas. What
Right.
might serve me right now to help with this thing I'm dealing with?
That's right. Your teams, your spirit squads are always there. We're never walking alone. And what a blessing that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this feels like a good ending point to
Yeah.
stop. Well, you guys have gotten a lot of great invitations throughout this episode. We'd love to hear what your favorite is. And if there's anything that you'd like for Shannon and I to touch base on or explore in our upcoming podcasts. But in closing, at its core, Practical Mystics is a podcast about remembering that spirituality isn't separate from life, it's woven into it.
And we hope you'll continue to join us on the journey of curiosity and awakening.
Thank you for spending time with us.
Much love.